Welcome, beautiful buddies and gentlemen family. In today's video, we'll be taking an early look at the upcoming Nations League semi-final games, obviously set to be played on the 4th of June and the 5th of June, and then both the third place and the final will take place on the 8th of June. Jumping into the first game, obviously, to look at is Portugal versus Germany. Portugal advanced versus Denmark. 5-3 on aggregate. Germany advanced versus Italy. 5-4 on aggregate. Obviously, Germany facing the tougher opponent. I have some quick glimpses over both games. I mean, one thing we can say about Germany, I mean, at one point they were 5-1 up versus Italy. And, you know, when you're 5-1 up, the other team will care way more. You pretty much already won the game. So it was more of a bigger victory for Germany, whilst Portugal had to go into extra time to finally get the victory over Denmark. And it was a bit flattering getting, goals there towards the end of the game. But yeah, I mean, this game will be really interesting. The last time I can remember these two nations have faced each other, obviously 2014 World Cup group stage, 4-0 to Germany. Recently in the Euros, 2021 Euros, they faced obviously in the group stage they had Hungary and France as well in that group stage. Can't really remember the scoreline. Was it a draw? It could have potentially been a draw. I think I remember Ronaldo scoring in that game. That's when he did put the hand forward thingy. And yeah, I mean, it will be a very interesting game. Cristiano Ronaldo obviously going for a third trophy with Portugal, have already won the Euros and the Nations League previously. Vitinha, hopefully he can get his first international trophy. And there are obviously some other players that won the Nations League recently. I think Ronaldo is the only player on this team from the Euro winning team ever since Pepe retired after the Euros. But looking at Portugal, their strong sides is Diego Costa. He's a good keeper. Nuno Mendes, probably Portugal's a top 3 player for Portugal. I mean, in the Euros, now in the Nations League, in the World Cup qualifiers, in everything. Nuno Mendes is absolutely insane for PSG and for Portugal. Probably better for Portugal because he has more of an advanced role at Portugal. For the centre-backs, I mean, they have some good centre-backs. All right. Dalot, Premier League system player, not the best. Bernardo Silva, yeah. Hopefully, João Neves takes that starting spot. I know that he had an underwhelming performance in the first leg versus Denmark. That's why he didn't start the second leg. Didn't even come out from the bench. But it should probably be a Vitinha Neves double pivot with Bruno Fernandes as the 10. He's probably Portugal's best player. Or top 3 once again. I think Bruno Fernandes, Vitinha, and Nuno Mendes are Portugal's top 3 players. Rafael Leao, man. I mean, I've talked so much about him. This guy is such an unserious football player. When I say unserious, I mean in terms of prioritization and in terms of talent. This guy is immensely talented. What he can do, when you watch some clips, that's why a lot of people rate Rafael Leao. It's because when you watch him, when you've seen some highlights, you're like, wow. This guy could be the best player in the world. It's not consistent. The mentality is not there. This guy is having braids and earrings and rapping and shit. The priority is not there. He has to understand this is his job. This is supposedly his passion as well. Why isn't he putting in that effort? Why isn't he looking at himself in the mirror, being mad at himself? If I was stinking it up, being subbed out in the 62nd minute to Diego Jota, who's also garbage, I would question myself. But that's the issue with Rafael Leao and this new mentality of players. They have zero self-accountability, zero self-awareness, and no expectation on themselves. I'm, for example, a person that have high expectation on myself. When I play a football game, if I perform bad and it's like a halftime or a drinking period, I will look at myself and be like, yo, come on. I don't usually talk to people, especially when I'm doing bad. I look at myself, I start talking to myself, I start focusing more. I look at what did I do wrong, what can I improve on? Because I don't want to be bad. I don't want to be bad. Not for people watching me be bad. I don't want to be bad. I'm a winner. I want to win. Rafael Leao has to get that mentality. His father, his brother, his friends, someone next to him has to tell him, Leao, man, because he cannot understand it. He cannot understand that. And as I said, Rafael Leao is not the only player from the current generation which has this fucked up mentality with zero expectation of himself. Constant cheeky player, and obviously Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, he's going to be forced into these lineups continuously, even though like all he offers is maybe one tap in here and there. It's unfortunate, but this is the way that Portugal want to go. They obviously have a good bench as well. And who knows, maybe Quenda could potentially somewhat be a starter. He could play as a right back. He could play as a right winger. So yeah, Portugal looking strong heading into the semi-final. But as I've said, I watched both games versus Denmark. They were not that good. They were not that good. And they concede stupid goals. And, you know, in a tournament like a Nations League or World Cup or Euro, conceding stupid goals against momentum is not what you need. And that's exactly what happened versus Denmark, especially in the second game, not the first game. The first game, Denmark played really well. The second game, it was mostly Portugal having the ball, having the chances, and then Denmark just scoring against momentum. And Portugal have to solidify defensively, and they are good offensively, obviously. Going on to Germany, I did not have any focus on their game. I didn't even have the Italy-Germany game because I could pick. I was obviously watching France-Croatia, and I could pick two more other games, and I picked the Spain-Netherlands and the Portugal-Denmark one. So Germany, I don't know that much. I know that Nagelsmann is using Kimmich as a right back. He's been insane for them in those two Nations League. We obviously watched Germany at the Euros. They were the best team alongside Spain. And when they faced each other, it was a very tight game. Germany should have gotten a penalty on the Cucurella thing, and then Germany could have won the Euros. Very, very questionable decision from the referee there. But yeah, it's looking like a good team. Probably got to change up Goretzka. And it's very weird that that they don't have a good striker. That is very worrying. This is a national team that went from Gerd Müller and Thomas Klose and Thomas Müller to Kleindest and Fulkrug. So they definitely need some reinforcement, maybe potentially playing a false nine. But, I mean, he got a goal, so I can't really blame him. We'll see how Stiller performs. Wirtz will obviously be back for those semifinals, so we'll be starting ahead of Sané next to Musiala in that dual 10 spots. Baumann as a keeper, as Neuer got another injury. Yeah, they should probably focus on maybe Baumann or something, even though he's not the best keeper. But apart from that, I think this game, both of them, I don't have that many thoughts about Germany. I think it will be a very tight game. Yeah, as I see the other game, I see this game is very tight, and I'm very excited to watch Portugal versus Germany. I'm there for my PSG boys. I'll obviously be rooting for Portugal. That I won't be mad if Portugal lose, but I will be happy if they win. Nuno Mendes, Vitinha, João Neves, and Gonçalo Ramos. Moving on to the next game, we have France versus Spain. Obviously, France was the nation I was focusing on in both two-legged games, France-Croatia, and I also focused a little bit on the Spain game. Let me start a little bit with Spain. Unai Simon performing really well for Spain, just continuing that. I do think David Raya should be in question, at least for starting, because he's been very good for Arsenal. Cucurella as a left back. I mean, when you have both Grimaldo and Balde, who's not called up, it is a bit of question marks over De La Fuente there, why he has this Cucurella obsession when Cucurella just isn't that good. Dean Huijsen, Normand, obviously Kobarsi got injured in the first leg, but yeah, that's the thing. What do you play as a centre-back partnership? I think it's very tough heading into for Spain. They also have Asensio as well. Obviously, Laporte is not part of the selection now, so De La Fuente will have some question marks going into that Nations League semi-final over his starting partnership. He will definitely, I see, starting Lenormand. Lenormand was there for the Euros and is a very good player. Older, more versatile experience as well, so I see Lenormand starting. And then probably Kobarsi, but Dean Huijsen has a shout. Right back, obviously, Pedro Porro started the first game, and then this game, Mingueza started. I don't really know who they should start as a right back. Spain don't really have a good right back, but I guess it's between Mingueza and Pedro Porro. Moving into the midfield, obviously, Pedri didn't start, came off the bench, performed really well, as he did in the first game. So Pedri, Fabian Ruiz, and Rodri will obviously be back for the semi-final. So that would be a great midfield from Spain. And then moving on to the attack, Yamal and Nico, obviously, as the two wingers. Oyarzabal, I don't know. That's another tricky position. You have Morata, you have Oyarzabal. Potentially play Dani Olmo as a false nine. Yeah, I would probably play Dani Olmo as a false nine. It's tricky. Yeah, I would do that. I would play Fabian Ruiz, Rodri, Pedri midfield with Dani Olmo as the false nine. I think that would be the best. Obviously, Rodri is not fit now, so we don't know exactly how De La Fuente would play. And then obviously they have Yamal and Nico, who was that wing combo at the Euros. I remember now, like recency bias, it's more Yamal hype from that Euros. plays for Barca, has a bigger name. But I remember at the Euros, both him and Nico, those were those frightening wingers. One game, it's Yamal cooking. The other game, it's Nico cooking. And potentially in the final, obviously, Yamal got the assist to Nico goal. But yeah, Spain looked really good. Are they as good as they were in the Euros? I felt from both the Netherlands games, they are not as strong as in the Euros. Still a strong team, still one of the best nations in the world. But this is going to be a rematch from the semi-final of last year. I don't think Spain is going to be as good. Still going to be good. Moving on to France, they're better. They're definitely better. I watched the first leg. Horrendous performance from France. Horrendous performance. Obviously, in the second leg, this was one of the best France performances I've seen probably since the 2022 World Cup. It was a complete dominant performance. Scoreline should have been over 2-0. Maignan, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, obviously does not do it consistently for AC Milan like other AC Milan players like Leao or even Theo. But for the French national team, he's superb. He's superb, especially in that penalty shootout. You do put up the question mark. What would have happened? He was in the World Cup penalty shootout final. Moving on to the defense, Koundé. France badly need a new right back because Koundé. The thing is, like, defensively, he's still good. He just offensively, especially when France want to keep the ball or go on a quick counter, his passing is so bad. But I guess it's calm. Centre back Upamecano, insane centre back. Both, with the ball and off the ball, insane centre back. And next to him, I think it should be Konate. I don't really see the Saliba hype, both from Arsenal and when I see him with the French national team. He's still a good player. I just think Upamecano, Konate, that's what we saw in the World Cup as well. That's the best centre back partnership. Moving on to the left back spot, Theo Hernandez had some of an underwhelming game. I think it probably has a lot with him being underwhelming for AC Milan this season. So for France's sake, hopefully he picks up his form until the semi-final is being played. Double pivot position. I think Tchouaméni always does a good enough job to play in that double pivot. The main issue is the player next to him because Tchouaméni is more of the destroyer. You need a deep playing midfielder next to him. The issue is France have none of those profiles. I mean, the other midfielders they had is Kone, Warren Zara-Emery, Camavinga, Rabiot, Guendouzi. I mean, all basically off-the-ball players is what they're better at. But I'll probably do a Tchouaméni, Camavinga double pivots. I think that's the best rolling into this game. And then the attack, Dembouz, Olise, Barcola, Mbappe. It's probably the best. The only guy that can put competition, two players actually, is Desiree Doué. We obviously saw what he did in the second half. And then, obviously, Ryan Cherki, if he gets picked up, because he's been in insane form this season. But for some reason, Deschamps doesn't want to call him up. So you basically have Cherki and Doué competing for that front four. Colomani and Thuram, you can have one of them in the squad as a workhorse coming off the bench, but I think Deschamps should think all about technicality in that attack instead of the Thuram and the Colomanis. It just doesn't work. But the game what we saw from Olise, best game he's had for France, one of the best games he's ever had. It was an insane performance from Olise in that 10 spot. Him and Dembouz interchanging a lot from that right-hand side to center. Same with Kylian Mbappe and Barcola interchanging between the central and the left-sided spot. So I think that's a frightening attack. That's a much better attack than France used to have. Even with Griezmann, Mbappe, and Giroud, this attack is absolutely deadly. Deadly in terms of goal scoring, dribbling, playmaking, like versatility. It's an insane attack. We'll have an insane depth. France are back to being somewhat of a generational team. I think talent for talent, France is the best team. Are they the best coached? No. De La Fuente's Spain, better coach. Scolani's Argentina, better coach. Nagelsmann's Germany, better coach. Probably Tuchel's England, better coach. Obviously, they're not in the top four, but once again, as said, Spain will be a little bit not as good as they were in the Euros when they met France. France will be a little bit better. This is a huge game. Blockbuster game. Obviously, I'm way more excited for this game than the other game. This would be such a huge game for everyone. I mean, seeing Dembele, Yamal, Nico, Mbappe, Olise, Barcola, Dani Olmo, Pedri, Fabian Ruiz, Rodri, Upamecano, Theo Hernandez, Maignan. I mean, it's just baller after baller after baller. Probably maybe should have been the final. Should have rigged it a bit so these teams meet in the final instead, but we'll get a semi-final rematch instead. My predictions for the two teams to go through. PSG bias is Portugal and France. Obviously, they are the two nations with the most PSG players. But if I have to be honest, I think Germany will go through. Portugal do not look that great, even though they have a very talented team, more talented than Germany. But I think Germany will go on to the final of the Nations League from the left bracket. And from the right bracket, I'm giving it to France. I think they will slightly edge Spain, having better moments players as well. But both, it could go the other way. But the nations I'm predicting to play in the final will be France versus Germany. Let me know in the comments down below. What's your thoughts about the upcoming Nations League semi-final that will be played in around 2 months' time? Very early predictions here. And who do you think will face in the final? And if someone wins, I'm picking France. That's been it from boy PSG, and as usual, allez, Paris.